Good morning and welcome to Morning Moments. I have a special guest from the Orlando, Florida area. And this is in direct relationships with JC Films and some of the folks I've recently interviewed. Uh, I have Jill Bolander-Cohen, the founder and director of the Lifeboat Project, which we've talked about before. And I'm so thrilled to have Jill on with us. Welcome, Jill.
Hi, Andy. Thank you so much for having me.
Tell us a little bit about the Lifeboat Project. What do you do and why do you do it?
Well, why do I do it? God called me to this, not what I had planned for the second half of my life, but God had plans. And we are a service provider for victims of human trafficking 18 and over. One thing that we've just started to do, again, it's God. We focused on men and women, sex and labor trafficking 18 and over, but in order for survivors to really heal, they needed to have their children. And so we are one of the only agencies in the United States that now takes trafficked individuals with their children. And that has really changed up the dynamic for us, because how does a mother that was sold by her father at 10 years old know how to parent? That would mean they don't know how to. And so it has changed it up a lot for us. And so not only do we have to care for the incredible trauma that the men or women have gone through, but now we have to help care for these children that sometimes they are the traffickers' children. And so, when you've been raped and beaten and sodomized hundreds and hundreds of times, and now you have to look at a child that is a product from this, it's heartbreaking. But God says, I'm going to get you through it. And I cry a lot at night, but I wake up and I'm rearing to go, and there's great people that want to help. And, even you reaching out and saying, let me help spread the word about the great work that you're doing. God's hands are all over it.
Isn't it amazing to tell people and to let folks know that God really loves them no matter what they've gone through?
Amen. Amen. Yeah, I had a hard conversation today. I'm still kind of reeling from it and very emotional. Some pastors that we had met through a chance meeting through one of the chambers of commerce. They love what we did, and they said, oh, we have a heart for what you're doing. And I mean, truthfully, I didn't think I'd ever hear from them again, but they called and they said, our ministry was floundering, but I think they personally were floundering. Like, they knew that God was calling them to this specific thing. They didn't know what the specific thing was. And so during a feeding of, for the homeless during Thanksgiving, a mother came up and she said, you'll never know how grateful I am for this food. And he said, God loves you. Here's my card, and this is my church. And she reached back out and went. And I think last week, her whole world fell apart, and she reached out to these pastors. And the pastor called me and said, I see very clear now what God was calling, the meeting with you and the meeting with this survivor. And her child is missing. Her child was taken at 14 years old by traffickers, and the mother never gave up. She drove around till she found her in an abandoned house and got her the help she needed. And she walked to the store one day and disappeared. But this child is biracial. This child has a history of running away. So now she's labeled. When those of us professionals dealing with law enforcement and certain people that have worked in this line of work, it's not good. It's not good. And we feel that she's been targeted. But, and this has been the whole this has been one of the wonderful things that I love doing Lifeboat, is because I do see the grace of God. I understand where they're coming from. And we see a lot of times when there's been a lot of sexual abuse at a young age, that maybe the promiscuity happens, and then maybe the drug and the alcohol happen. And then the burning of the bridges of families don't trust you. You stole to do this, to do that. And now you've been labeled. And this is a trafficker's dream, because your family, your friends, your support system, they don't trust you, but who's going to love you? Oh, the trafficker is. And so then they swoop in, and it's just a vicious cycle. And then they're trafficked, and they have children with them. And now we have the children. And so Lifeboat at this point is, we're taking on this beast, and it's a beast. I mean, it is a beast, but God's gotten us through this. This is going into my 11th year doing it, when people didn't even really know what human trafficking was. And so, God shows his grace and his love just by having Jason Campbell and JC Films reach out, and Dean Kane, and say, you know what? We have your back. We want to get the word out. All the incredible actors and actresses that have stepped forward and have learned about it, a lot of them didn't even know that this was happening. And so spreading the word is wonderful, but providing the wraparound services is what's needed. And that's what we do. Our survivors, we have 3 that they receive a free education at the university, the local college, if they're with Lifeboat. And so 3 of them made the president's list 4.0. Now, you being in mental health, can you imagine the trauma? Trying to get a 4.0. I mean, I had a great childhood, and I was lucky if I made a C in school.
Yeah, I went through nursing school saying C's will get me degrees. That's what I said in nursing school.
Well, we have a survivor right now that is going through nursing school, and she's killing it with straight A's.
Oh, great.
So again, you just see the grace of God. As a Christian woman, and I'm born and raised in the Presbyterian faith, I've had this discussion with several people. I said, I don't like to say that we're faith-based. I like to say that we're faith-led. But then other people say, well, no, you kind of are faith-based because, you welcome the different faiths that come.
Yeah.
But the bottom line for me is, Andy, I just want them to see Christ through my actions.
Right.
The words that I speak.
I had somebody on that was working in the film industry for years, and she made the statement about faith-based films. I don't like to call it faith-based films as much as redemptive films. And I'm thinking, boy, doesn't that go across the board? Rather than a faith-based organization, it's a redemptive organization. We're trying to help people get redeemed from what was lost. And when you said some of these folks that at an early age, and as a former pastor, especially as a psychiatric nurse, I have seen people damaged so much from early childhood on by abuse that the basic building blocks of trust and understanding and coping skills are gone. They've never had them.
It's an empty shell. It's an empty shell that you're talking to.
And it's not like, well, let's just give them a Bible and send them on their way. There has to be a lot of work underneath to build those building blocks that helps establish people as a successful human being, and not just a successful Christian, but a successful human being. But those were taken away from them when they were a child.
I think understanding them.
Yes.
And believing their stories. And when I hear the word redemption and redeemed as a Christian in this movement, I have a serious problem with that word. I'm also the co-founder of the Greater Orlando Human Trafficking Task Force. In 2013, we put this group together of NGOs, Catholic Charities, Salvation Army, and all law enforcement, FBI, Homeland Security, everybody. We all came together. This is when task force were really being put together. But the faith community wanted to be a part of it. And I remember talking to some of my colleagues and saying, that's great, but we don't need everybody running in 50 different directions.
Right.
So we have a faith component of it. And the faith people, man, they're all in. They are all in. So we said, okay, there needs to be maybe some backpacks that are done. So they did backpacks. But I will tell you, sometimes we are really clueless as people of faith. They wrote letters in there. I think the intentions were good. Man, they were so far off the mark. They said, oh, and I know you've gone through this, and I know that you've made a lot of mistakes in your life, but Jesus forgives you. I'm thinking, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. And then they had made a bracelet that had the word R on it for redeem. But if you look up the word redeem, of being forgiven, it's not good to a human trafficking survivor.
No.
It makes them look like they've done something wrong.
They've done something, yeah.
So I think there's just certain things that we really need to think up about.
Well, and sometimes terminology and making the right terminology to meet the right person so you don't offend them. That's important. And
it's that trauma. It's that being trauma informed.
Yeah. And there's so much shame involved.
Oh my God.
So much shame involved when it wasn't your fault to begin with. Right. And God wants the shame to be off you. Shame off you. Instead of shame on you, God says shame off you. And that's what it takes to have people who understand and can help build back up what the enemy has taken away.
We had a woman that local officials reached out to us. I can't say who, but they reached out and they said, we have a woman and her child that was put into a up and coming, a new anti-human trafficking organization, and they wanted to house and provide services. But it was basically only one person. She was extremely faith-based. And she made her go to Bible study, 7:00 every night, made her go to church on the weekends. And finally, this girl spoke up to her and said, listen, I can't do this anymore. And she's like, well, what are you talking about? And she's like, I can't do this Jesus thing with you anymore. And the lady was totally offended. And she says, well, what do you mean? And she said, I was forced to sleep with pastors. Mm. And the woman looked at her in the face and said, you're a damn liar. As a Christian, that infuriates me. Sure. That absolutely infuriates me. I have right now in the Lifeboat, we have a survivor that was trafficked from another country by her pastor. So it does happen.
Yeah.
So again, it's having that being trauma informed and understanding, no matter what your views are, even the LGBT community, because we do have an LGBTQ transitional home. We have people that are Hindu and Buddhist and atheist and Christians. And again, I go back to God called me to this, and I want them to see that my words are truth, that I will show action. I'm not just giving them lip service. And I think that really helps begin the healing, because I will tell you, Andy, these victims trust nobody.
Oh, no, absolutely. I can see that. Absolutely. Trust has to be earned, and they have not earned nobody. They've not had anybody to trust all their life. Mm-hmm. Well, this is just just a tip of the iceberg of what's going on. And I wanted to get Jill on because we've had such great guests talking about a couple of the great films that she talked about that JC Films have put together. But I wanted to get Jill on to have you meet her and also underneath get the information about our organization. Some of you are listening to this and say, well, what can I do? I am maybe in some other state or other places, and what can I do to affect them? You could, I want you to look at their website. Just maybe you're the one that to give just not a lot of money. If you have a lot of money, give it, please, but just maybe a few dollars, but allow God to speak to you and say, is this, God, something you want me to be involved with in a large or small way? And look at their website, watch the JC Films that's coming out. There's a couple that's going to be coming out. They're in post-production now that we've heard about. But keep an eye on what's going on. And also, when you think of trafficking, I want you to stop and pray for Jill and her organization in Orlando. I want you to pray for Jill because she is going through an extreme burden of this heavy weight that God's put on her to be able to reach people who no one cares for. And I want her to know that she's not alone, that she's got prayer warriors out there that's praying for her. And take a few moments right now after this interview, take a few moments, steal away and pray for Jill and her organization right now. And so that God would continue to give her strength and give her support for what they need to do. Jill, thank you so much for being a guest on Morning Moments.
Well, I do appreciate it. One thing I do want to say, and I feel that this is very important. So I am a Rotarian, and I am the Florida State Coordinator for Rotarians Against Slavery, to speak to our Rotaries and other groups. But I did a training about 4 or 5 years ago, and I had an air marshal come up to me, and who is now on my board of directors, Sonia Labasco. And she said, I was talking to a flight attendant one time, and she said, wouldn't it be great that if there was some kind of a sign or something? And we knew at the time that a flight attendant on Alaska Airline had come across a victim in transport with her trafficker and had written her a note and left it in the bathroom. That's extremely dangerous. So that I kind of mulled that over, and that night at exactly 2 o'clock, not like 1:59, but 2 o'clock, I sit straight up in bed, and God says to me this: HT, human trafficking. This is it. And I thought, okay. So I called them. We've been training. We've done over 85 trainings at the Orlando International Airport. They are getting the word out. Now, it's been out for about 5 or 6 years now, but not really out there because we just kind of do the work. We're really bad at marketing ourselves, but
yeah.
We've been partnering with the Orlando Police Department in Orlando International Airport and getting this silent sign out. There's a lot of signage out now that we see in, truck stops, rest areas, different bathrooms about, calling the 888 human trafficking hotline. But one thing that we've learned, especially working with law enforcement, when you see something, you need to call 911. Don't wait and call a clearinghouse in Washington, D.C. You see something, call it, especially in our airports. It will go straight into law enforcement that is within the airports. So they said that calls are up 45%.
Oh, great.
And that's just training the staff.
Yeah.
So I would say, again, HT, you can see it on our website if someone's in trouble.
All right. Well, I've learned something very valuable even in this interview, and I want you to pass this on to other people, and keep praying for Jill, and keep the word going. Okay, folks. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andy.
And thank you for joining me for Morning Moments. And if you would, please keep coming back.